Good evening. This is a little later than usual, but thankfully we got to celebrate my wife's birthday this week. And this is the Mechekh Chokhmah shir for Parshas Vayishlach. So, Parshas Vayishlach, it's Bereishis, Perek Lam and Gimel, Pasuk Yud Ches. Vayavo Yaaqov Shalem, Ir Shechem. Yaaqov arrived whole to the city of Shechem, Asher Beretz Canaan, which is in the land of Canaan. Yes, Eli, you are once again first. Asher Beretz Canaan, which is in the land of Canaan, Bavo mi Padan Aram, and he came from Padan Aram. So he's now leaving Lavan's house. He's coming to Shechem on the way back into Israel. Vayichan es Pnei Ir, and he's encamped in the face of the city, meaning in front of the city. So the Medrash makes a big point out of the fact that he encamped in front of the city instead of actually in the city, entering the city. So the Mechekh Chokhmah opens by quoting a Pesikta, which I couldn't find, but I found the same quote, or a similar enough quote that I believe it's the same quote, in Bereishis Rabbah. Rabbi Yochanan b'shem Rabbi Yossi bar Chalafta Omer. So Rabbi Yochanan said the name of Rabbi Yossi bar Chalafta. Okay, Avraham she'ein kasuv bo shmira Shabbos. Avraham, we have a tradition, kept all the mitzvos of the Torah, whatever that meant, even before they were given. But the Torah doesn't actually say that he kept Shabbos. So the Medrash continues, Yarash es ha'olam b'midah, so he acquired from this world with measure. Shenemar, as it says, Kum hisalech ba'aretz, go walk through this land, meaning Hashem took Avraham on a stroll through this land. This is in the middle of a nevuah, so he didn't necessarily actually walk the length of the width, but let's say perhaps he did. L'orcha l'urachba, its length and its width. And Hashem said that wherever you walk, that's what I'm going to give to you. So you see that Hashem's bracha to Avraham, in some sense, was measured. Aval Yaaqov, but Yaaqov in this week's parsha, shekazu bo shmir Shabbos, it does say by him the keeping of Shabbos. Shenemar, as it says, vayichan es pnei ha'ir, that he camped at the face of the city. Nichnas im dimdumei chama. So Chazal say, why was he at the edge of the city? Because he entered with the setting of the sun. V'kava tchumin mi ba'od yom. And he set up Techum Shabbos, the maximum distance that he could walk away from the city, from where he was, mi ba'od yom, when it was still day. So therefore, Yarash es ha'olam bimlo midah, since he kept Shabbos in writing, and it was actually in a way that had to do with measuring, because it was Techum Shabbos, the maximum distance. So, but he, Yarash es ha'olam b'lo midah, he gets his gift in this world without a midah, as it says later on, V'haya zarecha kafar ha'aretz. This is in Perek Chav Ches, so sorry, it's earlier on, that your children will be like the dust of the land, uncountably many. So Yaakov's, Avram's bracha, well, at least the Avram's bracha that involves the land is measured, and Yaakov's bracha that involves the land is not measured. And what's the distinction that the Pesikta says, and Bereishis Rabbah say that for this is that Avram does not say Shmir Shabbos, and Yaakov, it does say Shmir Shabbos, and not only that, but Shmir Shabbos is this law of Techumim, of a maximum distance one can travel on Shabbos. Now, what the Mechekh Chokhmah finds out about this is that we actually have another Medrash that says that Avram kept Shabbos, or at least that he made a Eruv Tavshilin. So he made an Eruv so that he could cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos. And so we have some sense that he kept Shabbos. So why does it make a big deal here that it says something in the pasuk that implies he kept Shabbos? Because he camped in front of the city, from which we take an implication that he kept Techum Shabbos. Why is that so special if Avram kept Shabbos too? So Mechekh Chokhmah points out that this is an interesting distinction between the two mitzvos of Shabbos that are being listed. Avraham set up a means of feeding people on Shabbos, right? Avraham was always inviting guests, and he makes his Eruv Tavshilin so he could feed people on Shabbos. I'm gonna skip a little because, well, frankly, I got started 3 hours later than usual. V'lachein Avraham chavetz lahafitz shita. So Avraham wanted to spread out his shita, his position, his theory in life, v'deyosav, and his ideas, his theological ideas. L'chol ba'olam, everyone who came into the world, asher chashav ki hu yechidi, because Avraham thought he was alone, and therefore he set out to teach each person as an individual. Then when he saw that Yishmael was coming from him and he was not going to be founding a nation, therefore he planted this Eshel to bring all people into the covenant. Bereishis Avodah Galilim, but we call the Mechekh Avodah Zarah. Shnei Alafim Torah, Mei V'Esanefesh Asher Asu B'Charan. There were 2,000 years of chaos, 2,000 years of Torah, and then we're in the final 2,000 years from year 4,000 to 6,000 of the Messianic era, or introducing the Messianic era. But the 2,000 years of Torah starts with V'Esanefesh Asher Asu B'Charan, this bringing in people into the covenant that was done by Abidu le'oraisa, that they should be indebted and attached to the Torah and in service of the Torah. Perhaps this is also why he went down to Mitzrayim, the place of wisdom and of writing. The Chartumim were magicians, or Shartum is a written item in Egyptian, so it was all one thing in their culture. Lefalpel karvam l'shitaso, to argue with them, bring them over to his side. Ba'achdus u'b'Torah. So Avraham's mission was universal. Lo ken Yaaqov, but that wasn't Yaakov's mission. Rashid mitaso shlema. He saw that all his kids were going to follow in his footsteps. Literally, his bed was complete. Bizarro dai shehu merkava l'shchina, and it was enough that his children should become the vehicle for the Shechina. So not only did he see that God was standing above him when he saw the ladder with the angels on top, that God was on top of it, he also saw that his children will be separate from the other nations. Mugvalim betchum, separated with this Techum that we're talking about in terms of, the same word as Techum Shabbos. There's a limit to the Jewish people. Laf Lavan Chosno, and therefore even Lavan, his father-in-law, Hinichu b'tauso v'kas al Rachel shaganva hatrafim. He was willing to leave Lavan in his idolatry, and he got angry at Rachel for stealing the trafim, and so on. So what are the differences between Avram and Yaakov? So Avraham's Shmir Shabbos was how to find means to bring more people into the covenant, because Avram knew that only one of his children would be part of the nation, and therefore the Ishmael was falling aside, and therefore he didn't feel that he could actually build a team. There's two ways to do tzedakah. One way is you could help a poor person by giving them money, by feeding them, right? The chicken lady started out that way, right? The chicken lady Yerushalayim would provide chickens personally to each person that she was able to. And then eventually the number of people who approached her exceeded what she could do alone. And people heard about everything she's doing, and this became an entire engine for providing chickens for other people, where she became the beginning of an organization. So one person could maybe feed 10 people, but an organization of 20 people could feed more than, well, multiply the same factor of 10, 200. When you work together as a team, you could accomplish more than just what each person could do alone. The sum of what each person could do alone. The word Buckminster Fuller would have used was synergy. That there's an energy to teamwork. We have this by the Meraglim. The Meraglim could carry, two of them could carry a bunch of grapes, and the Gemara explains from this that we know, therefore, that half a bunch of grapes was too much for one person to carry, because two people could carry more than 2 times what one person could carry. So similarly here, Avraham did not have the ability to build a team, to build a nation that would spread Torah to the whole world, and therefore Avraham went directly to reach everybody he could, right? Whether it was bringing people to Noahide observance in Haran, or the Eshel, where he actually attracted people to his cause, or, as the Mechekh Chokhmah says, going down to Egypt, the center of wisdom, and trying to convince the ideologues of the era, the magicians, the inventors of writing, to join this cause of following Hashem. Yaaqov, however, saw that he could build a nation. Yes, Jonathan, it does sound like your mother's food funnel. I am quite in awe of your mother. But back to where Yaaqov was. Yaaqov saw that all 12 of his sons were going to follow in his footsteps. So Yaaqov worked on team building, right? It wasn't the right era to start spreading Torah to the whole world. He first needed to make sure that he had a working core, a working team, the Jewish people that would then bring the Torah to everybody else. So this is why Yaakov's observance of Shabbos is a Techum. Kavat Techumin, he established limits, the limit distance that you travel on Shabbos, Lahagbil v'litchum bein Am Yisrael lo'amim, to build up borders between the Jewish people and the other nations. V'lachein b'mara, adayin lo ifkod atchumin, mishum sheyanosim machlokas. Therefore, in Mara, in the very beginning of the Exodus, when they reached the town of Mara, which was called Mara because they were complaining about the water, there wasn't a Torah yet. It was before Sinai. And it was all just argument. The Jews in this state of argument were not ready to be a mishkan, a tabernacle, a place for Hashem's presence. Ad ki hera Elokim teidai lahayir la'olam hashafel. V'lechein lo nitan mitzvah tchumin. Therefore, we weren't given Techum in Mara, even though we were given other laws of Shabbos. Aval b'Sinai ifkod al Techumin. In Sinai, we were given Techumim, she v'yichan Yisrael, because Israel camped, and then there was a border around Har Sinai. So similarly, we have this idea that the Techum represents the notion of Jewish particularism. So we get an interesting balance that Avraham was incapable of dealing with Jewish particularism because in his era there wasn't going to be Jewish people. Even in his own family, not everybody would be Jewish. And therefore he went directly to helping whoever he could reach across the world. Yaakov was in a position where he could develop Jewish particularism, but not as an end in itself. He was still committed to following Avram's dream. The point of building an Am Yisrael and paying attention to the Jewish people first is because, as I said, when you have a team and you could work together as a group, you could accomplish more than the sum of what each person does individually. So you have this balance of needing to know when to be an Avraham and reach out to everybody you meet, and when to be Yaakov and to build the nation mitaso shlema, with that you're able to bring all your children into the project together. So this balance is also true in our lives. There are people. My maternal grandfather was like this. My maternal grandfather was one of these people where if he heard that one of my parents' friends was out of work, that person would suddenly find money in the mail slot and wouldn't necessarily know, well, generally didn't know where it would come from unless somebody slipped the secret. But in general, I mean, my grandfather really tried that no one would know where the money came from. My father's parents, on the other hand, were organizational workers. My grandfather had a hand in establishing the Bikur Chokhmah Borough Park, the Chevra Kadisha Borough Park. They were on the board of every school my father attended. They were community workers, and they believed in building the team, and therefore you don't actually end up running to each person you see who is in need. You instead build a team, and you accomplish more that way. And we each have our own strengths and our own ways of doing things, and we need to know both what the situation calls for and what our abilities call for, whether we want to do chesed the way Avraham did, or do emes, tiferes, actually, the balance of the... well, now we're going way far afield, and I'm way too tired to start that whole tangent. So let's walk that line back a second. Whether we want to do chesed like Avraham and run to every opportunity, or do tiferes, the splendor, the balance of Yaaqov, and know when is a time to run and do, and when is a time to build an infrastructure so that we can run and do and accomplish more later. It's something to think about for all of us. With that, I wish everybody a nice week. Those of us celebrating Thanksgiving, have a nice Thanksgiving. Just remember who it is we're supposed to be thanking, and how much there is to thank him for. There's two things. This is a tangent, but it's relevant to Thanksgiving. There are two things that you could learn from the tefillah of Modani. The obvious one is, Modani, I wake up and I thank Hashem that I woke up. I should know that waking up is a gift from God. The other one is a little more subtle, and that is, we should know that even just waking up is a gift worth thanking God about. You know, we take the things that come every day for granted. This was what Leah said. Leah knew she was going to have 3 kids, and when she had because there were 4 wives, and there were going to be 12 tribes, when she had a 4th child that she didn't expect, then she said, Hapam Odes Hashem. Now I know I should have thanked Hashem. And there are Mefarshim who say, what does it mean, now I will thank Hashem this time? Because I should have thanked him the 3 times that I had what I expected, what is usual. But now that it's extra, then I remember to thank Hashem. And that's a problem that we all hit. That, you know, when something seems miraculous and there's something big, you know, a lot of people remember to thank God if we won the lottery. But just the fact that we wake up every morning, morning after morning, is truly something to thank Hashem for. And it's something to think about tomorrow if you live in a country that is taking a pause to think about thanking the Almighty. So have a great one, and enjoy the rest of the week.